up? What is up? Welcome back to the Silver Surfers channel, everybody. And got another currency video for you guys today here. This one's pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. This is one of my newer purchases as well. And just wanted to share it with y'all. So what you see in front of you is this beautiful 1861. It is a Confederate States of America, a T6, the signatures of Tyler and Elmore, serial number 804 there. $50 note from the Confederate States of America. So these guys are really cool. Where do we start on this note here? So oftentimes, we'll flip it on the back and we'll kind of show you guys an overview here of the entire note. And then we'll talk about it here. A cool little stamp there. All right, so what is this thing? So a lot of the times these are referred to as the poor man's Montgomery notes. And they're one of the earlier Confederate notes that were printed. For those of you that don't know, Confederate currency came out after the South seceded from the Union in 1861. And they needed a way to fund the war, as well as all the other stuff that was going on down there at the time. So the Confederate States of America ended up breaking away from the Union. And interestingly enough, the first notes, which is the T, these are the categorizations. There's 72 notes, really 70 notes. Two of them are not kind of official notes. But anyways, the T through T-Tac 6 is the categorization of Confederate notes. And I forget the individual's name who came up with that categorization. But anyways, that's what that refers to. But T1 through 4 are the Montgomery banknotes that were printed by the National Banknote Company, which was a subsidiary of the American Banknote Company out of in the North during the time. And those notes were actually printed at in New York City. Shortly afterwards, once the South broke away from the Union, the United States were like, no, we're not going to do that anymore. I should say the Union, and blockaded any more currency from being shipped over to the South. So the South had to come up with ways of printing their own money, not using up in New York City anymore. And so they overtook the National Banknote Company down in the South, which was in Louisiana at the time, New Orleans specifically, and renamed it to the Southern, which you guys can see here, the Southern Banknote Company, and started printing these notes. So they didn't print all that many notes from the Southern Banknote Company to begin with. This is one of them, and this is actually one of the very first notes that they printed during the time. So pretty fascinating indeed. And the Southern Banknote Company is also a subsidiary of the American Banknote Company, which, as you guys know, printed, I should say, many of the paper currency at the time. Why did I get this note? Well, because it's got George Washington right there. And as you guys know from all of my previous videos, I'm a big collector of George Washington portrait notes. And I find it fascinating that Washington's on a Confederate States of America banknote. He is on two other banknotes as well from the Confederate States of America. The T7 and T8, I believe, the $150, which are not printed by the Southern Banknote Company. That's printed by Hoyer and Ludwig, which printed a heck of a lot of money at that time for the Confederate States. On the back side here, and you got this really cool agricultural, I believe it's agriculture, right there. And then, I don't know, I got to look up what that vignette is on the right. But really cool vignette there in the center. Got another one that looks like Justice here on the left. And just a beautiful banknote, man, to be honest with you. This one was issued. It was also an interest-bearing note, which you can see. Let's see if I can find it on here. What does it say? There you go. On the bottom it says, pay $50 interest at, trying to read this here, half a cent per day in Richmond. This was after the capital of the Confederate States of America moved from Montgomery to Richmond. And that's why you see the Richmond there. So pretty cool. This was actually turned in, and that's why it has the cancellation marks there. It was redeemed, if you would. And I think it has the actual amount here on the back. Yeah, so it says right here, Bank of the State of Georgia, Savannah, June 25, 1862, received the amount of the within note with $1.50 and a half interest to date. And it was signed by an individual down there. So pretty cool, pretty cool. So yeah, just an overall striking piece of currency here, dudes, that there's not a whole lot of these, and these are expensive notes. The T6 and T5, the 100 and the 50 are quite pricey, and there is only less than 5,800 of these printed for both the 50 denomination and the 100 denomination as well. So really cool. But look at that, August 28, 1861. Lots was going on at that time, man. Really, really crazy time of our history. But yeah, I had to have one. I wanted to add it to my Washington portrait collection as mentioned. So there you have it. They're probably one of the more affordable, quotation marks there, if you would, of the Confederate States money from that are like expensive but affordable. They're not like the Montgomery notes, which all sell, at least a minimum of like $4,000 or $5,000 for a messed up one, to be honest with you. And they can range all the way up to, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 or so for really high qualities. But anyways, I do want to get the 100 Hoyer and Ludwig version that has Washington on. I'm actually eyeballing one in an auction. Much cheaper. Those I think are about 30,000+ or so were printed. And then the 50, which I think was like 130,000 or maybe 120 something thousand, something along the lines like that. But that's a future video and a future pickup, hopefully. So anyways, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys got any of these notes like that, if you guys collect this kind of stuff. And until next time, Silver Surfer is out.